Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And thank you for your patience with us as I was on the road. And we didn't do anything last week, but
we're going to sing On the Road again?
That's a fine song, you know, Willie Nelson. He's got a lot of others that aren't as popular, which probably better, but we'll leave it at that. In any case, man, there's a lot to talk about for the so-called dead period. And let me just start with this. If your name is Brett Mason Rudolph III, it's been one hell of an offseason.
It has. Was he engaged to that girl that he broke up with?
Well, there's that.
That's first. And then the same week, they signed Mitch.
They signed Mitch Trubisky, and then, of course, they draft Pickett. And, you know, the minicap seems to go well. And then the Steelers signed this guy named Larry Ogunjobi, who was, I guess we could say, Myles Garrett's Tonto, if you will. Wingman. There you go. Now, my understanding, and you guys can probably correct me here, they actually settled things, Ogunjobi and Mason, from what I recall. It was more Garrett and Mason that didn't. But so, Scarps, I'm going to ask you this question to start us off here. What do you guys talk about anything like that? If you bring a player in and you might know that there's been a past history with a current player, does the PR group say, we got to keep these guys away from each other, or let's orchestrate a meeting? How does that work? Because even though I know they kind of calm things down, it's still got to be a little awkward.
You know, I would say that there were always people above my pay grade that did those things.
Mm-hmm.
But for the media relations side of stuff, yeah, we would talk to both of them. I'm trying to think like one off the top of my head. Give me a minute here. We can come back to that. But yeah, we would talk to both players and just be like, hey, listen, I don't, and flat out I'd be like, I don't know if you hate this guy, like this guy, want to kill him. I have no idea, but just like, don't say that to the media. You know, let's focus on we're teammates now. What happened in the past is in the past. We're here to come together, win a Super Bowl, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Right. Again, I'm trying to think of like an example of someone.
And I don't mean to say that there have been many of those that you may have.
But I would say that anytime we brought in a player, whether they had a history with someone on our team or not, and I've mentioned Mike Vick many times on the show, but you know, when we signed Mike Vick, we not only did we, you know, obviously talk to Mike, but we also talked to the majority of folks in our locker room that would have probably been asked about Mike. You know, you go to your Cam Haywards,
sure,
and you never really have to worry about what Cam's going to say. But you always just want to assure the guys that you're in their corner, you're looking out for their best interests. At the end of the day, you're a Pittsburgh Steeler and you represent the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's all that matters. And you always want to look good. So that being said, I think this would have been a little bit different had Ogunjobi been signed maybe a couple weeks ago when there was a little bit of access. But I'm sure when training camp hits, Mason will have to address that if he's still on the team at that point.
Yeah, I mean,
and he will be.
Yeah, I think he will be too. But it's just, you know, and of course we as fans, we make way more out of these things than is necessary. But you couldn't help but wonder, you know, let's put it that way. Ian, I know you had some thoughts on the signing here of Larry Ogunjobi, and so I'm going to go ahead and let you share those.
Yeah. Following up on what Ryan said first, that actually, you know, the clips that have been floating around of Mike Tomlin on Ryan Clark's show are actually pretty poignant to what Ryan said too, that, you know, Tomlin had some quotes about saying that, you know, with certain guys, you know, he felt it was better to let them kind of express their own personality. Like with Ryan Clark, he said, Ryan, you would just like lose your mind for 5 minutes and I just let you go, but then you would chill out and, you were committed to the greater cause. You just needed that 5 minutes to just freak out about whatever it was. And, sometimes it was guys instigating you. Sometimes you were the one at fault, but you just needed that 5 minutes. He's like, and that's just how you were, your personality. He's like, and we didn't try and, get you into some rigid structure. It was like, he just needs to freak out, give him his time. And then, but when you let guys kind of be themselves and do that stuff, they're more willing to kind of buy into the greater goal of the team and sacrifice more of themselves in those key moments. So that was kind of poignant. The other thing I'll mention is that I thought kind of what he said about having Cam Hayward, tutoring Najee Harris in leadership was really interesting too. But Larry Ogunjobi, because that's where we started, I hate it. I hate the signing. Yes.
Why?
Okay. Objectively, from a football standpoint, he's a good player who can help our team. But from a fan standpoint, this wouldn't be quite like signing Terrell Suggs or maybe even Bart Scott, but like a Haloti
Not even
Ngata.
close.
No. Hear me out.
Or Haloti Ngata.
No. Not from a skill standpoint, Haloti Ngata, but from a I hate this guy standpoint.
I'd take Haloti Ngata in his prime in a splash.
Let me make my fucking point, Ben. Signing a guy like Larry Ogunjobi was super easy to hate. He was a jagoff. He's an asshole. And now he's on our team. And it's like, well, I can't fucking hate this guy anymore. So
he's our asshole now.
Exactly. I can't hate the guy, so now I have to root for him. So yes, from a fan standpoint, I hate it because objectively, it's a decent signing. He's a good player. Subjectively, I hate it because he was really easy to hate, and I did hate him. He was a prick, and now he's on our team. So that's why I hate it.
To me,
it's like signing a guy that you hate. That's why I was drawing the parallel with like Suggs, with Bart Scott, with
because you hated those guys.
Because you hated those guys.
Fair point.
Yes,
I respected Haloti Ngata's game.
Much.
Yeah.
Ngata was a really good player, but he also broke Ben's nose, and it was like, I don't know, my hand just punched him in the face. How did that happen?
He punched him in the face and was laughing after the play. And you could argue about whether or not he did it on purpose or didn't. Either way, he thought the result was funny.
Yeah.
And then Ben came back and whooped their asses anyway. And Suggs walked off the field shaking his head, going, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great moment.
Yeah, it was that's big guy rising up in a big moment, but different subject. Ogunjobi, kind of a jagoff. I never thought that he was a central player. Let's put it this way: he doesn't rise to the level of a Vontaze Burfict, or a Pac-Man Jones, or a Terrell Suggs, or even a Haloti Ngata. He just doesn't rise to that level because he's not that good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good signing objectively if his foot is 100%. Recall that he was going to play for the Vikings and couldn't pass a physical.
And it was for a pretty big chunk of money.
It was a good chunk of money.
Yeah.
And couldn't pass a physical. And so now he's in Pittsburgh for 1 year on a prove-it deal. And, we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, but he has been a good run stopper over the course of his career. An adequate pass rusher, not great, but adequate. And, if he can contribute, I'm all for it. I'm happy.
And they feel like he can double. He can play on the outside or he can knock down on the specialty packages, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not going to play edge.
No, I don't mean edge. I'm saying
he can play 5 tech, 3 tech.
Right. I'm saying 5 and yeah.
They're saying 1 tech too, but I'm like, really? Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, from just I guess what you said, objective opinion, I think it's a good signing. I think it really helps the depth there. I think it gives a guy like DeMarvin Leal maybe a little bit more time to develop, and maybe makes some of those other guys, a Chris Wormley, maybe it makes him better, and Loudermilk. Yeah, I don't know. But to me, it was a needed depth, and they still have plenty of cap space left, which we'll get into.
He's better than Chris Wormley is against the run. Both Wormley and Ogunjobi had 7 sacks last year, but Ogunjobi had 12 tackles for loss and 16 quarterback hits, whereas Wormley only had 6 tackles for loss and 10 quarterback hits. So he is better. He has a quicker step. Like I said, objectively, he's a decent football player. I just hate it from a fan standpoint because I want to be able to hate guys. The league is more fun when there's guys you can hate.
Well, it'd be like Bill Laimbeer going to the Bulls back in the heyday.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what you're saying a little bit.
AFC North is full of guys. It's easy to hate. I mean, I fucking hate Joe Burrow. He's not a bad guy. I fucking hate him anyway. He's a Bengal. He gives a shit. He's obviously a jagoff douchebag that I was always destined to hate. Right?
What's going on?
I mean, the division's full of guys that are easy to hate because they play for the other teams.
Oh, it's
every other team hates us just as much as we hate them.
Oh, absolutely.
Every other fucking team is obviously very short-sighted and is wrong.
We're the best
because we are the good guys.
How dare they?
I like the signing. If he's healthy, I think he can be a really good player, a good contributor. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he started camp on the PUP list. I wouldn't be surprised if he had, limited preseason experience, depending on how his foot is. And I'm not in that building and I don't know. But I look at it as he'll be here for a year. I doubt they'll re-sign him unless he's not commanding some love from other teams.
Right.
Because he will be able to be a UFA again next off season. And if he has a good year with us or a decent year with us and he's healthy, I could see him getting a longer term deal somewhere else. But the alternative was pretty grim. Now this gives a chance, if he's healthy, for the younger guys to not play as much. And then a guy like Leal to not play as much as well. And we'll see.
So, and to add one thing to what Ryan said, he's only 28 years old, which is kind of like just entering his prime for a defensive lineman. And on a 1-year deal, I'm a big believer there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal, right? That, even if the guy sucks, he's only here for a year, it doesn't hurt you down the line.
Right.
So 1 year is fine. Plus, if he blows it up and then goes and signs somewhere else, we're in like potentially get a compensatory pick territory. So, if he blows it up and goes elsewhere, we could get a draft pick down the line for it. This is a low risk, potentially high reward signing.
Or he could come in and just be a solid contributor that they decide they want to keep at a decent price, like my previous Adams, and they bring him back next year in the same role that they've had Tyson Alualu in, which that's to me that's winning. I would be happy if that's the way it worked out. I'm not saying it's going to, but that would please me.
I don't know if he can play like the zero tech, the nose though.
I agree, but you've got Alualu and you've got Adams and you're okay there at this point.
Yeah,
as long as those guys can manage to stay healthy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who's having a bad day after that signing though is Carlos Davis. He was already on the bubble in my opinion before that guy was signed. He's almost certainly gone now, and Henry Mondu, probably done too.
Yeah. Mondo Gobobai. Real quick, just a reminder, we are proudly presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. DEK serves Broward in the southern Palm Beach counties, whether it's commercial, industrial, residential, multifamily, or condos. Contact DEK Roofing by visiting dekroofing.com. And thank you to John Deck and the family. They're going to be entertaining Steel Sun here in a couple weeks. He's heading down there to do some stuff, and so hopefully he will pick up after himself.
You just send your children down to Florida to get rid of them? Is that your plan?
Well, that's really not a bad idea.
I'm sending you off to camp, son.
It does. It feels like the parent who, as soon as the kid walks in the door from school, they send him to summer camp.
Have a good time. Your mom and I are going to have a staycation by ourselves.
Well, the girl is an adult. She's old enough. She goes down on her own. But in this case, he's got an opportunity to go to an ID camp there at a Division II school called Nova Southeastern, which is just down the road from the DEK headquarters there. So
do a little roofing in his spare time.
He may. He he should get up on the roof and do some Florida roofing.
Little internship there. Yeah. Bill's
man.
character.
Oh, yes, it was. I did it once. I did it, and I'll never do it again.
Yeah. What you
We
said.
No, Ryan.
We don't appreciate fucking hard labor.
I'm telling you, man.
I appreciate the fact that I don't have to do it now that I've done it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I dug one post hole today, and I was exhausted. I'm like, nope, I'm done. That's it. So yeah. With the signing of Ogunjobi, we do have a lot of space left. And Ben, I'm going to throw this to you because you were pretty quick on the trigger today. There's still talk about Boswell and Diontae Johnson. There's room to get them done. You seem pretty adamant that it's not going to happen with Johnson. What are you feeling? Why do you think that way?
Well, let's do Boswell real quick first,
Sure.
Because it's easy. I mean, he's going to get whatever the rate is right now, top of the market for kickers, and they're going to tie him up because he's performed very well, aside from the 1 year where he had the injury issues.
Yeah.
Didn't make any excuses. He just said, I just had a bad year and I'm going to make it up. And he came back, and when he was healthy, he was his normal self again.
Yep.
And good kickers like that are pretty damn valuable. They win you games. So they're going to tie him up. They're going to pay whatever they got to pay. And like I said, it'll be top of the market scale. Maybe not quite Justin Tucker, but it'll be just under it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's the fourth most accurate kicker in history.
Yeah, and he deserves it.
Yeah.
All right. He's a great place kicker. He's been fantastic for us. I think that gets done. So simple. Diontae Johnson, not as easy. If he really was asking the Steelers for 5 years and $75 million in February, I said it then. I will say it again and again and again, and people will get sick of it. They should have taken that deal immediately. They should have written it out on a fucking cocktail napkin and had him sign it right there on the spot. Seriously, that was a deal. It was a bargain, huge bargain. And now,
but that was before the Kirk deal,
right? Now
yeah.
They have no chance in hell of getting that kind of a deal. Whatever he gets when he does sign his big deal, and I don't think it's going to happen this summer. It's going to start with 20 plus million per year. That's what Diontae Johnson is going to get because that's what he can get on the open market. And people will argue, well, he's not worth it. He's not this. He's not that. He blah, 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 blah. Okay, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how much you think he's worth. It really doesn't matter how much the Steelers think he's worth, although they won't sign him to more than what they think he's worth.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is his agent says, look, this is what he can get on the open market. This. So we'll take a little less to stay because we like it here.
Right.
But we're not taking $5 million less. No.
It's the market.
So the deal,
right? The
deal will not get done this summer, in my opinion. It won't.
Right, Ryan, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with Ben when it comes to DJ. I think we've talked about it on the show. I just want to share a personal Boswell anecdote. The worst player you could sign was always a veteran kicker or punter, because we would literally put their bios into our own format. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst part about a kicker or a punter is that you had your regular statistics, but then you had your like extra statistics. So for a kicker, you had your regular kicks, extra points, but then you had distances like 0 to 19,
right,
or 1 to 19. Blah, blah. It was fucking hell. Okay, so I'm going to say this because we had some names here. I remember we signed Jeremy Kapanos, good dude. Yeah. Well, no, he was before me, but Kapanos was one, but he wasn't.
He won a Super Bowl, didn't he? Or
yeah,
he went to the Super
Bowl. 2010, my first year. Spolver got hurt. But then Sultan Mesco had a couple years. And Matt McBriar, the Aussie, another good guy, had some years under his belt. So that 2015 season was hell for a variety of reasons. But Sean Sweezum gets hurt. at the Hall of Fame game, and we already had his bio done. So in comes Garrett Hartley, who was in the league like 8 to 10 years. So like fucking 15 hours of my life later, and there his bio's done. And then he hurts.
Then he gets hurt, yeah.
And he hurts his hamstring, and then fucking Josh Scobie comes in.
Oh God! You had to bring that shit up.
Great dude. He just on such terrible luck. So there's another 30 years out of my life for a fucking kicker bio. And I remember being there on a Saturday and we were trying out guys. And I remember I got the tryout list and I was like, I don't know who the fuck this guy is, but I really hope he makes it because I don't want to do another fucking stupid ass bio. And it was Chris Boswell. And I just remember being like, thank you. Like, finally, Jesus, you shut down on me. And I literally had that bio done in like 15 minutes. And I was like, and then look what, and then he literally just became like so fucking good. And like, I remember at one point,
fantastic.
I remember one point, and I was really close with Sean Sweezum, another great dude. I remember one point, I don't even know if Sean was even trying to get back into it, but I looked at him one day, he was like rehab, and I was like, I think you lost your job. And he was like, yeah, it's all right, whatever. Because that's like, so good for the Steelers. Like, that's some very good.
Yeah.
So, kudos to them for finding, Boz, but also kudos to him for being really, really good and then having a really rough year. And then literally bouncing back. And there's a lot of good kickers in this league, but besides Tucker, he's one of 3 guys that I would be like, I want this guy to kick the ball with the game on the line.
Yeah.
From anywhere.
I agree.
I'd say just him and Tucker for me. It's those two.
Yeah.
And
I'd say Tucker's range is probably 5 to 7 yards longer.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Tucker's probably 59-ish in. And let's just say Boswell's 53 in, but they're both incredibly accurate.
Yep.
I trust Carlson from the Raiders. I'd probably trust Mason Crosby as well.
Crosby's funny. He goes through those weird spurts,
but he's got that old, old
Crosby is
old
ice water in his veins. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the guy looks cool as a cucumber, but Mark hit the nail on the head. He goes through these weird spurts where it's like, how did you miss that one?
Yeah, he won't make like a
30-yarder one, and you miss a 38-yarder. What the?
Yeah. Ian, what are your thoughts on? I guess not just Boswell, but Diontae as well.
Yeah. The other thing that got real screwed up with the wide receiver market was because all these guys signed these big deals. Now the numbers for like the franchise tags are going to be a lot higher too, because the franchise tags is like the average of the top 5 or 10 guys or something.
Top 10 guys,
Top 10.
Well, I think it's like depending
top 10 cap number.
Yeah. Well, the franchise tag is one, but then there's the transition tag, which is a different number. So
that's right. It's top 5, top 10. You're right.
Yeah.
Ian.
Yeah. So yeah, like those numbers got all screwed up now. So even the idea of like, well, maybe they don't sign Diontae, but they franchise him next year, like that's a risky situation because that's a big cap number for just 1 year. So yeah, I mean, I would love to see them lock up Boswell. He deserves it, and they had faith in him and stuck with him after his bad year and came back. The one other thing I'll note about kickers, interestingly enough, since we're talking about him, that drafting kickers actually doesn't work out that well. Kickers you should sign in free agency, but drafting punters does work out well. So a couple years ago I looked at, or maybe it was last year, I looked at like kickers versus punters that made the Pro Bowl, ones that were drafted versus ones that were free agents. And maybe it's just that Justin Tucker was an undrafted free agent and has made a shitload of Pro Bowls, but like the rate of drafted kickers making the Pro Bowl is a lot lower than the rate of drafted punters making the Pro Bowl. So if you like,
it's a weird stat.
It really is. Yeah. But yeah, so you're actually better off waiting on a kicker and picking one up in free agency like Boswell, like Justin Tucker, versus actually, and Sean Sweezum was a free agent for us too. And he was really good. Jeff Reed before him was a free agent. So, we've had success finding kickers out there. But punters, you're actually better off drafting, which is actually an interesting thing kind of going into camp this year is, how's Presley Harvin going to bounce back and perform. And if anyone out there is watching on YouTube, Ben just yelled at his dog to shut the fuck up, and it was hilarious to listen to that.
We need to bring the dog on for a special guest appearance, Ben.
Anyway,
But
as an aside
actually,
to what Ian was just talking about, speaking of drafted punters, I really thought Matt Sepulveda was going to be outstanding. Dan Sepulveda, yes.
Dan.
And he just kept tearing ACLs over and over. But that guy...
Didn't he do it in the 2 Super Bowl years?
He could punt.
Yeah.
And he could tackle. And
he's a big guy.
I remember when the punt returner would get away and he was the safety and you could see the hit coming and I would cringe. I knew it was coming and he would level these guys and I was just like, oh God.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this out loud.
Uh-oh.
And we're live. Whatever. One of the best guy bodies ever seen in my life. Like literally, like physical, like he was fucking built. He was chiseled, man. I didn't even know who he was. I didn't even know who he was. I walked in there. It was my first year.
Yeah.
And I thought, in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't know, it might be the punter because he was in the training room.
Right.
And like he had like a polo shirt on. I think he was just walking around. I was like, who the fuck's that guy? They're like, I was like, holy shit. I mean, like fucking arms like Arnold. Like he literally arms like Arnold. He's fucking 6'2". He was chiseled. Unbelievable. Super nice guy as well.
Good for it. Where did he come from? What college? I can't
remember.
Baylor. That's right. I knew it was somewhere in the South.
I said it. All right. I said it.
I would kind of like to take this topic just as a little further, Scarps. Who had the worst body you ever saw in the locker room?
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
And let's be real here. Like we're not talking below the waist here.
No.
I'm perverts out there. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, we're the correct answer for hold on. The correct answer for best body was Casey Hampton, obviously, hands down.
Grown ass man, strong.
That's right.
But was there ever a guy you just looked at in the locker room and thought to yourself, "How in the hell is this guy an NFL player?"
Yeah, more often than you think.
There had to be.
Yeah, more often than not. Yeah. Especially when you got like 90 guys, like during this time when you got 90 guys, like you're just like, how the hell is this dude even in? Like how is this guy even getting a check right now? Like I don't understand.
Oh, you ever seen that picture of Mike Glennon when the Bears signed him? And a Bears fan is like, yeah, this is the prototype. This
is what the alpha specimen.
And it was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Does the alpha specimen have a 2-foot long neck? Is that
yeah.
Who's the one now that has a big neck?
Texas,
Davis Mills, right?
Davis Mills.
Yeah.
His neck is like 13 feet long. He's like a giraffe.
Yes. Well, Scarp, since you're warming up here, I'm just gonna turn this over to you. You had some thoughts on the comments this week of Chase Claypool.
This ought to be good.
Claypool stating this week he believes he's a top 3 wide receiver, not just in Pittsburgh, not just the AFC North, but in the NFL. And that created quite a few talking points, as most things do on social media and amongst us. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you and go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. So after Chase Claypool said what he said, I kept reading. What's wrong with confidence? What's wrong with setting goals? Don't you want your players to be confident? Of course you do. However, not everything needs to be made public. This is a pattern of behavior exhibited by Chase Claypool. How many times now is he going to say something stupid or do something stupid and then have to come back and be like, oh, it's okay. I'm human. I'm young. I'll learn from my mistakes. When I worked there, my number one job was to be a player's advisor and consultant. And the number one responsibility was to make sure that your reputation is number one. You were a Pittsburgh Steeler. You were going to act the part. You were going to play the part. You were going to look the part. And guess what? I don't care if you hate me, love me, despise me, want to be my friend, don't want to be my friend, slash my tires. It doesn't matter. My job is to make sure that you look good and to protect your reputation. Everything else after that was just gravy.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you say or do might be a story. Whether that's on social, whether that's an interview, whether you're at the bar getting hammered with your friends and somebody takes a picture of you or a video of you and you stomp somebody in the head. People forget about that one from Chase Claypool.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you start saying predictions and hypotheticals and projections, dude, make it boring, man. Make it boring.
Derek Jeter.
Hey, listen, I don't want to talk hypotheticals. I just want to be the best wide receiver that I can be. I want to be the best teammate I can be. I want to make sure that we succeed on offense this year. I want to make sure when the defense gets a stop that we take the ball down the field by any means necessary and we put points on the board. Not everything needs to be public. But at the end of the day, it's all about clicks. It's all about engagement. It's all about making more money than TikTok than you made on your rookie contract. Dude, really? Nobody gives a shit how much money you make. Nobody gives a shit how many endorsements you have. Steelers fans only care about one thing: Lombardi fucking trophies. Thank you. I rest my case.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Yeah.
Counselor?
Counselor, that's it. Yeah, I forgot my legalese.
Well said.
There. Ryan, let me ask you a question. Did players know that you were a guy that's what your task was to protect them? And like you were describing, you said your number one goal was to protect those players' reputations. Did they know that?
So here's the thing. If I was there and I told that to a guy like James Ferrier, he'd laugh at me, right? And I'd expect him to laugh at me. I would. I'd expect him to laugh at me. But when you got a younger guy and you're sort of their same age, and you're not a player by any means, but you're literally looking out for their best interest because they all of a sudden have all this fame, all this fortune.
Yep.
They don't know where to turn to. No, I didn't sit there and text them at night and be like, hey, sometimes you had to text them and be like, hey, man, like you got an interview tomorrow, or hey, take that tweet down or whatever. But it was always business, and that's what the role is. And now, and it's not just the Steelers, but when you got young athletes and a younger generation that was basically raised on social media, and their first inclination and instinct is that, oh man, I got to put this out there. I got to put this out there. I got to put this out there. Hey, they're not so much advisors anymore or consultants. They're trying to be their friends. And I never gave a shit if a player liked me or not, ever. I don't care.
Yeah,
clearly,
because that wasn't my job.
I don't think you could. I don't think you could.
I mean, okay. Did I ever lose sleep at night? No. But were there times where I was like, man, why is Hines not like me as much? Like, he's always smiling and shit, and everybody thinks he's so great, and he fucking hates me. But at the end of the day, Hines was the guy I didn't have to worry about. Like, Hines always said the right thing. Hines probably hated me because I was like, hey, do you want to do this ESPN interview? But for a younger guy who really doesn't know he came from college, and his SID in college might have been a fanboy too. Like, I was never a fanboy. Listen, again, first and foremost, I'm your consultant and I'm your advisor. I'm going to tell you all the right things to say. I'm going to tell you how to look. I'm going to tell you how to act. And you know what? I don't care if you hate me. If we develop a relationship, everything else is just gravy. If we develop a relationship, if you want to buy me a pair of shoes, if you want to invite me to the barbecue cookout, great, sweet, wonderful, grand. That ain't my job, though. That's afterwards. My job is to make sure that you represent the Pittsburgh Steelers to the best of your abilities, so that the people upstairs don't tell me, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Right.
Yeah. Sounds a lot like teaching. I'm not there to be your friend. That doesn't mean I can't build great relationships with kids, but
that shit's hard. I mean, like, Literally.
Yeah.
Literally going up to somebody that hates you and doesn't give a shit what you want to say, but you got to say it because somebody upstairs told you to.
Yeah, that's a
so
great
whether
point.
that was a James Harrison or another veteran, it was like, shut the fuck up. I'm like, all right, cool. But you know what they did when they talked? They said the right thing.
Hey, that's all that matters.
So was that me, or did I mention an Art and a Tomlin and a Colbert when I said you should say the right thing? We'll never know.
Oh, that's good stuff, man. That's really good because I know as you were talking about it, that was the question I had. If I'm a player, do I know that there are people there that are doing that for me or looking out for me? And does it matter? Do I care? I mean, shit.
If you're not, you're not doing your job.
Yeah, I would agree. Ben or Ian, was this much ado about nothing? Should Chase have just shut up? Yeah.
It's not a hanging offense or anything. It was stupid. It was ill-advised. It reflects on the immaturity that's been a hallmark in his career so far. I mean, on and off the field. I mean, like, do you remember that play where he gets up off the pile at the end of the play and smacks the player on the top of the head?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck was that, dude?
Right.
You're lucky that wasn't a flag. What the fuck was that?
He eventually got one for doing that later in the season.
Idiot. I mean, shit like that.
Well, and of course, you had the famous Minnesota game where he, celebrates a first down in a situation where it just was so unnecessary.
Yeah. I mean, from my standpoint too, like I think Ryan started off hitting the nail on the head. Like Ryan, what he said, I agree with 100%. But also, like, I don't mind players have goals and players being confident, but at the same time, like, don't say shit like that when you haven't proven yourself and when you're coming off like a terrible season.
Right.
Like
you're a top 3 wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Not even in the AFC North.
Yeah. Yeah. If the guys on the, mid 2000s to like early 2010s teams that talk trash had proven it on the field, right? Like Hines Ward broke a dude's jaw.
Ooh,
he could go out and trash talk about, laying guys out because he smacked Ed Reed in the face. He backed it up on the field, and he had done stuff on the field that let him go out and say shit and run his mouth.
Yep.
And he didn't do it a lot, but he did it some.
He did it some.
But the
did it with a smile on his face.
Oh yeah. And eventually he went on to win Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah. Like James Harrison, all that shit that he did with, the 2 guns on the cover of the magazine and all that stuff. Like he won Defensive Player of the Year. He had, broken the Steelers single season sack record. Like he did stuff on the field to, give himself a little bit more leeway. Claypool hasn't done shit on the field to warrant like being able to go out and say stuff like that. Like, maybe if he didn't fall down every time he caught the ball, maybe if he'd scored more than 2 touchdowns last year, that he could go out and say, this year my goal, and it was part of it was how he phrased it too, right? Like he said, I know I can be a top 3 receiver in the league.
No, he said, I know I am.
Or I am. Yeah, I know I am. Yeah. Right. Versus saying like, my goal is to be like top 3 in the league in receiving yards or whatever. Like Diontae Johnson led this team in receiving yards last year. Like Ben's right. Claypool's a top 3 receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes.
The other thing that he said that take away the individual accolades. He said the Steelers are going to go 13-4 next year.
Yeah.
There's another thing. Then you start putting that's team oriented. Yeah. This team hasn't won 13 games since 2017. And how did that end? They had a Hall of Fame quarterback, potential Hall of Fame running back, and potential Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Ran into some defensive holes and turned the ball over a whole bunch of times in the playoffs.
You know how many wins 13 wins is? It's a lot of wins.
It's a lot of wins.
Yeah. Especially with our schedule coming up. Yeah.
The first 6 weeks is
and we'll get into that.
We're going to go 13-4. Like, oh my God. I texted you guys the other day or whatever, fucking Slack, whatever we did. I said to you, I swear this team gets less likable by the year. And
that means you're getting older.
Exactly. When I saw that message,
you're about to go out in the front yard and yell at some kids to get off your fucking lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Back in my day, it was so much better.
Welcome to the club, Scarps. Welcome to the club.
Just contrasting the whole thing with another douchebag wide receiver who was, the guy was incredibly talented, and you all know who I'm talking about now, and had amazing work ethic and busted his fucking ass. 2011, I remember Antonio Brown, who was an emerging star and went to the Pro Bowl as a rookie, saying, "Only I expect greatness of myself, which is why I work so hard." Didn't say he was a top 3, top 5, top 1, anything. He didn't say any of that shit. He just said, "I expect greatness of myself because, and that is why I work so hard."
It's a good.
Ben, absolutely right. Just to piggyback on it, and then after that, Claypool tweeted about. He basically said I don't expect you to understand my expectations or my goals because they're he basically doubled down and said you don't understand my goals and expectations because you're not good enough to be where I'm at, even though you're not even fucking that good.
Okay, I get it. I get it. He can do things that, honestly,
yes,
he can do things that only the top 1% of the top 1% can do. But compared to his peers, he is not a top 3 fucking wide receiver in this league. Not even maybe. And that was stupid. It was dumb. He put a target on himself.
And then he
put a target on himself. And now this is going to be a talking point for the entire goddamn season. It's going to be a distraction for him, which is going to frustrate the fuck out of him. Because that guy's emotional. And he's immature. He needs to grow the fuck up.
And the players will never admit this. But Juju dancing Juju dancing on the Bengals logo and Von Bell blowing him up. If you don't think players remember that shit, so if you don't think the AFC North right now, maybe a Marlon Humphrey or a Mike Hilton or a Denzel Ward didn't see what he said, right? And I'm not saying they're thinking about it every night, and but they'll remember that one day. They will. Yeah. They will remember that one day.
They'll remember it. They'll use that as fuel going into game week. Week 1, Cincinnati's going to use that shit for sure.
Of course.
100%.
Yep.
And I, on the one hand, it's great that he believes in himself and he wants to go out there. And if he doesn't believe in himself, he shouldn't fucking be there, okay? On the other, he should keep that shit to himself until he accomplishes something. He is making a fucking fool out of himself.
Yeah.
It is not a hanging offense. I keep saying that. I want to emphasize it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This does not mean that he's a detriment to the team or that they should cut him or trade him or any of the fucking shit I've read this week. I'm like, are you kidding me?
No,
why would they trade him? That's
nonsense.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's not a team cancer or any of that shit. He said something dumb. He's immature. Okay. When you were that kid's age, you did a lot of dumb shit too.
Yeah.
Try to understand.
No.
Try. But that said, he's a professional athlete. He's got the spotlight on him. He needs to learn these things and learn when to shut the fuck up. And as Ryan put it earlier so succinctly, keep it boring.
Yep.
Boring.
Yeah. Boring is good. Maybe not for the news people, but it's good for us.
Yeah. One thing I want to say,
go ahead, Ian.
Since Ryan mentioned the 2017 team, in defense of that team, before Ryan Shazier's injury, they were holding teams to 17 points and 290 yards per game. After Shazier's injury, those numbers went up to 25 points and 350 yards per game. That's basically another touchdown and another 60 yards per game they gave up after Shazier was injured.
And they got even worse in the playoffs. They had a handful of holes, and on top of that, the offense went out and turned the fucking ball over 3 times. 3 times in the first quarter?
Yeah. They were down 21-0. They spotted a 21-0 lead. Yeah.
They spotted them a 21-0 lead, yes, but was it 3 turnovers in the first quarter, or was it 3 in the first half? Anyway, there's a lot of fucking turnovers. It was 5 overall, and the Steelers offense lost that game as far as I'm concerned, not the defense, even though they were not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just in defense of that team, I mean, they were 13-3 may have been a little bit of a misnomer because after Shazier's injury, they won a couple games that they were lucky to win. Like they beat a Green Bay team that had Brett Hundley at quarterback, I think.
Yep. They were like 7-1 in 1 possession games, some shit like that. Yep. Like it was ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a very valid point, Ian, and plus not just the physical side, but I think the emotional side too. Dealing with a teammate that you just
paralyzed.
You don't know what his long-term prognosis is, and you're out there doing the exact same thing that he got hurt doing. So it's a very good point. I want to remind everybody, too, that we are part of the Pigskin Podcast Network, which means we are very pleased to be associated with DraftKings. Right now, if you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code TPPN, bet $5 on either the Tampa Bay Lightning to win or the Colorado Avalanche and get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code TPPN. At DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
I hate them both.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of either team as well.
I think they're going to OT right now.
I hate Tampa more, but I hate them both.
I'm an old Red Wings guy, so I hate the Avs, but I don't really care for the Lightning either. So we do need to talk a little Minkah Fitzpatrick for sure, because we didn't do a show last week. We didn't really get a chance to chime in on his record-setting contract. He's currently the highest-paid safety in the National Football League. Ian, does that deal, before you comment on it in general, does that deal get done if it's still Kevin Colbert and not Omar Khan?
Probably, yeah. I mean, they traded a first-round pick for him. He made 2 All-Pro teams, and then last year he led the team in tackles, which it's never a good thing when a safety leads the team in tackles because it means your line and linebackers aren't doing shit.
What I should have said was got done this early. That's what I probably should have said.
Okay, maybe not. It might have went till training camp. But I think it still gets done. I mean,
yes, I agree.
He absolutely deserved it. I mean, two All-Pros within the first, within his rookie contract is just insane. I also want to note, as an aside, I am wearing the Minkah Mania shirt tonight from DC4L Custom Tees, which we are happy to be associated with. So go check out, the Steelers stuff on their website and follow them on Twitter because they're great. They do all kinds of cool shit. But yeah, I mean, they had to get Minkah done, and he was going to be the highest paid safety in the league. And, there was a couple other safety contracts that were pending out there, that it was kind of good that they got it done before those other ones happened because it could have pushed the number up even higher. I mean, now you've got a Jesse Bates in Cincinnati, which is kind of an interesting situation that Cincinnati is a team that traditionally hasn't paid players a ton of money. Mm-hmm. So, does Cincinnati let Jesse Bates walk now? And,
Ian, how do you think the wide receiver market figured into the negotiations with Minkah?
Not that much, actually, because the wide receivers, I mean, the top safety contract was at like 17-ish million, 17 and change. Yeah. And they gave him 18 and change basically. Okay. So he was about 1 million per year over.
But those two contracts being out there still, those 2 guys being out there needing to be done. Do you think that made the Steelers nervous, given the fact that the cap number's gone up so much and some of these contracts we've seen be awarded have been so fucking outlandish? And I was using the wide receiver group as an example, but we've seen some pretty outlandish contracts this year.
We have. You're right. I was just thinking that like Minkah at 18 isn't even approaching those top wide receiver contracts that are over 20, right?
Right, for sure. And I didn't mean in terms of dollars.
Yeah.
I just was using the example of basically
team spending stupid money is what you're saying.
Team spending stupid money because they've got more money against the cap, and they can, and as a result, agents are going, you have the money. I know it. You're going to have even more money next year.
Yeah.
My guy can get this. You're going to pay us this, or I'm going to keep shopping.
Yeah. And I mean, the Steelers kind of did have some leverage in this situation that, they had Minkah on his 5th-year option this year, and even franchising him next year would have been less money than what they actually paid him. So, the Steelers had a little bit of leverage in this situation with that 5th-year option and the franchise tag potentially next year. But it also sends a good message to kind of bridge the gap between Kevin Colbert and Omar Khan that, Colbert's thing was always, we're going to draft and develop our guys, and we're going to reward the guys that, succeed with next contracts. And they didn't draft Minkah, but they traded a 1st-round pick for him. So essentially, but let's not forget too, there's been plenty of guys we've drafted that haven't gotten in the 1st round that haven't gotten a second contract with us. We got 2 all-pro seasons plus another year that he was our leading tackler on defense that, he's been really damn good for 3 years. There's been 1st-round picks that haven't been good for 1 year for us. So, I mean, if you want to talk about getting your money's worth, it was definitely worth what we gave up to get him. I love, I love having Minkah on the team. I think he's great. He's completely transformed the way we're able to defend teams and play defense. The one thing I will say, though, is Minkah can't do everything, right? The biggest problem you have as a defender in football is when you think. You have to be instinctive and be able to react and just go. When you pause to think is when you get beat. And some of the times last year that we were getting gashed so badly up front in the run game that Minkah, I mean, think about that. Remember that Vikings game that Minkah freaked out on the field after he made a tackle?
Yeah.
That because it was a tackle 20 yards downfield.
Yes.
And the guy, it was Dalvin Cook, came through the line untouched. And Minkah's like, fucking do something, you front 7 in front of me. And then, was Minkah not as good in pass coverage last year? Yes, but that's also because he had to keep his eyes forward for if they ran a friggin' draw play on 3rd and 18 and the guy got 17
yards. That's the thing that people don't realize is that he had to play the run more aggressively last year, which is why he was less effective in the pass.
Yes.
That little tantrum that he had in that game, I remember it so well, and I just remember thinking, shit, that's all of us.
He was
Every
absolutely
one
justified
of us
in doing
was thinking
that.
the same thing, and it's like, yes,
not this guy.
What were you?
I had Dalvin Cook on my fantasy team.
Oh, for God's sake.
Dude, shut the seriously?
Right.
What the fuck kind of bullshit is that?
Scarves, man.
Actually, I will say objectively for how bad the Steelers' run defense was, it was probably a good idea to play whoever we were playing. But go on.
Yeah, fuck.
This is why I hate fantasy football. I fucking hate it. If you are that guy, I belong to a fan club, and there are usually between, let's say, 120 and 200 people that watch the game in a bar, all Steelers fans every week. And if some asshole stands up and says, "Yeah, that guy from the opposition is on my fantasy team, and he's had a good play," I will stand up, stand on my chair, point at him, and tell him to shut the fuck up as loud as I possibly can.
I would like video.
There probably is video out there of me doing it. Yeah. There have been. I mean, you guys think I'm pretty passionate on the podcast, which I get. There have been some psychotic football meltdowns. My friends will tell you. Absolutely fucking psychotic. There's this one fucking asshole. I'll give you guys an example. And this is, hey, you know what? Ryan did the, I'm talking about a guy's body earlier in public. I'll give you guys a fucking example of a psychotic.
It's 2022, man. Okay.
It's off season anyway. It's off season.
What I want.
It's off season anyway, so let's just go ahead. We'll embarrass ourselves for the entertainment of the listening crew.
Thank you to our loyal listeners.
Guy rolls in, and every time he's a Packers fan, and he comes in to talk to my friend Nora, tall, nice-looking blonde woman, and he comes in, and she sits right behind me. She's right behind me, and he'll roll in, and he usually rolls in late in Steelers games in a wheelchair. Okay.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, shit. I don't know where
rolls in. And he wants me to move my seat so he can sit where I'm sitting. And I always tell him, no, this is where I sit. I'm superstitious. Game's on. This is where I sit. This is where I'm staying. Close game. Tensions are high. Leave me alone.
Uh-huh.
So he'll sit right in the middle of the aisle and try and talk to her during the game. Now, she doesn't even like him or even want to talk to him. So I'm like, dude, why don't you just tell him to fuck off? Go away. But every time that motherfucker shows up, every fucking time the Steelers lose. You know the last time he showed up? The last time he fucking showed up was that Jesse James game where he caught the fucking touchdown and they ruled it.
Yeah.
Not a catch. That was that fucking game. That was that asshole's fault. That was a psychotic football meltdown. I threatened to punch a guy in a wheelchair. That's how fucking pissed I was. I said, I'll tell you what. I will sit here in a chair, and you can punch me, and I will fucking punch you back. I was incensed.
So, what you didn't know is that he had a direct line to Tony Corrente that day. This fucking asshole in Portland's trying to cock block me right now. So
exactly.
So that's the last time you saw this guy?
That is the last time I saw him, and I threatened.
Is he alive?
My friends still laugh about this. Yeah, remember that time that Ben tried to threaten that Ben threatened?
I mean, is the guy still alive?
I don't know.
Oh, fuck.
Let's just that was the short version of the story. The guy is an asshole. He pushes people's buttons, and he kind of hides behind his disability. And basically, I was ignoring it to that point. But to that day, I lost my fucking shit. I was already fucking losing it. Then they played Renegade in the bar, and he was bitching about how much dick sucks. They do suck. I don't care.
So you agreed with him about something.
This is a fucking shared space. You're with a bunch of Steelers fans. Shut the fuck up. So I yelled, shut the fuck up 3 times. Then I told him I was going to punch him in the face. Then Nora tried to get in and break it up, and I was like, no, it's fine. I'll sit in a chair and punch him. Make it even.
Holy shit.
Now, look.
All of that actually happened.
I'm going to side with you.
I don't know what that has to deal with me saying Daniel Sepulveda had a good body.
It's me embarrassing myself like you embarrassed yourself.
I mean, there's a difference. I mean, fuck, man, whatever. I digress.
Well, okay, so I think you were within your rights to keep your seat. If the Steelers are still on, then too fucking bad. He's got to wait, regardless of who it is, what he is, whatever. Yeah, you got to wait, man. So I'm
guy's
with you
a fucking jinx.
Yeah.
Do you remember that scene from A Boy's Life when the mob boss, the neighborhood boss, throws the guy in the fucking he tries to put his money in the
Bronx Tale.
A Bronx Tale.
Yeah, you're right.
What the fuck are we talking about right now?
You're right.
Mush.
Sorry.
Mush. I don't want to see your fucking
mush.
face. Put him in the
fucking bathroom. Yeah, that. This guy is that guy. He's a fucking jinx.
Every
goddamn time he shows up. Every time. I fucking lose my shit. Thank you, Ryan.
All love right here.
No, for sure. I was being sincere. Thank you.
All right.
No, and honestly, that's not the only psychotic football breakdown I've had, but that's one of them.
Life. The fuck are we talking about?
It's the off season. Who fucking cares?
Yeah, pretty much.
What'd you say earlier? Matt Sepulveda. How dare you speak about Daniel that way? In a moment.
I got a buzz.
I saw a picture of Boy's Life, and I'm thinking Rodney Dangerfield. We're going to do back in Boys Town. You know? Oh, my God.
I tell you. I can't get no respect.
Bronx Tale. Yeah. So anyway, put him in the fucking bathroom.
Yeah.
He's that fucking guy. Goddamn jinx.
Back to Minkah.
What?
Back to Minkah.
Is that where this started?
6 degrees of Minkah.
Back to Minkah. And I texted you. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not as big on Minkah as most people are. It doesn't mean I don't think he's a good player.
Right.
But the alternative is what? To not re-sign him?
Well,
To me, that's just it's asinine to not re-sign him. So you re-sign him. I think he's a really good football player. I think he is an anchor on the end. And I just hope that our front seven does enough this year to let him play his natural position.
Yes.
He doesn't have to play up as much, and he can just play as a center fielder and go from there because, and I've said this many times on the show, the Steelers struggle with decent to good quarterbacks, and they have a pretty fair amount of those on the schedule this year. So I would like to see him stay in his position and do what comes naturally rather than tackle running backs 12 yards past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, does Minkah have faults? Sure, but at the same time, I agree with you, Ryan. What's the alternative? I mean, you got to sign this guy. He's a great player.
He's outstanding.
I think that if that front seven does as you said, if they can hold their own, then he becomes his old self again and doesn't have to stare down the box.
Minkah has done little things, forcing turnovers, forcing missed completions that were game changers, literally.
He's very good with his eyes.
He is very good. It isn't to say that he is always in position. He's not. Sometimes he fucks up. Sometimes he guesses and he's out of position. It happens.
Yep.
It happens to all of them. But he's done a lot of little things that were game changers, literally. And that's why he's been valuable.
Yeah.
Do you remember that game against the Rams that Mason Rudolph somehow won? Like Mike Tomlin outcoached boy genius Sean McVay, which might be Mike Tomlin's finest coaching job. But at any rate, there was a play at the goal line. They had like 3rd and goal from the 7, and they ran a crossing route to Cooper Kupp, and Minkah came from like the other side of the field and broke it up. And they asked him about it afterwards, and he was like, "Yeah, I saw that on tape." And then some blogger went back. I don't remember who, or someone on Twitter went back. It might have been like Nick Faribaugh, who does a great job.
Yes,
he went back. He was like, tried to find the last.
Was Brett? What's his fuck? The guy who breaks down tape for YouTube.
Yeah.
God.
But he went back and like the only time the Rams had run that play was in like week 3, and that was week 11. And so like Minkah saw that play on tape and was like, "Oh yeah, that's what they're gonna run this time." And he broke up the pass.
I feel like a dick. I gotta look it up.
I still say Jared Goff's arm was definitely going forward in that game.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, that's right.
Oh yeah. Probably was. Yes.
Yeah, I forgot
because
about that.
It started with a snap over Mason's head for a touchdown or some shit like that, and then we got one.
Wasn't it?
Was it a safety or was it a touchdown?
I think that's how they got the 12.
Yeah, they did 12.
Yeah.
But they also, let's not forget that Sean McVay called. Not only did he call a fake punt in that game, but he brought in like Blake Bortles on a 3rd and 1 to run a QB sneak. Like he.
Come on.
Yeah, if Mike Tomlin had done that same game, he would have been crucified. But McVay outsmarts himself sometimes, which is why I love trolling Sean McVay lovers, because it's like, he does the same stupid shit that everyone else does.
Yeah, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect at all.
He only won with Jeff Fisher's players, by the way.
He did.
There was and I can't remember the handle. We can close with this, or you can tell me to go shut up.
Yeah,
but
you're fine, Scarps. Go.
Somebody on Twitter today said that Mike Tomlin is the greatest coach in Steelers history. Pretty much said that.
Well,
it was his opinion that Mike Tomlin is the greatest coach in Steelers history. And I will give him that. What? Mike Tomlin is one of 3 Steelers coaches over the last 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I will give him that Tomlin and Cowher are pretty much neck and neck. Tomlin will surpass Cowher eventually.
Yep.
You will.
But there's a fucking emperor, Charles Knoll.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I don't care how much talent Chuck Knoll had.
Yeah.
Chuck Knoll is just as important to this franchise as Joe Green is.
Yeah.
I
agree.
And even more important than Terry Bradshaw.
And that was back when that was back when head coaches ran the draft.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
well,
I can understand being in the moment and listen, Tomlin is a damn good coach, and Tomlin, or if Cowher made the Hall of Fame, Tomlin should be in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done.
He will.
Which is fine, and I'm good with that. And I don't want to get rid of Tomlin. I love Mike T personally, even being out of the game 5 years now. I love it. And you saw that interview on the Pivot. That's who Mike T really is, but you never see that in the weekly press conferences, and that's why you get this sort of fucking attitude about him because he's short with the local guys. I wish he was better with the local guys. That's neither here nor there. Anyway, Mike Tomlin, how good is it to say, how fortunate are we to say that neither Mike Tomlin nor Bill Cowher are the best coach in Steelers history?
Fucking A, that's a great point, Ryan.
It is.
That is an outstanding point.
I'm not even picking on the guy that said what he said.
Right.
I'm saying,
yeah,
how fortunate are we?
Yeah, I was talking about this before, and I was making a reference to Rod Woodson, and I was like, how fortunate are we that we got to watch this guy play, and he's not even the best cornerback who ever played for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
And he's amazing.
Yeah. He's a Hall of Famer, yeah.
I think what happened today was when that interview came out, a lot of people saw Mike Tomlin as a great guy, somebody, Ryan, that you've seen. You know, most of us have not seen Mike Tomlin other than in a coaching capacity. And they just, all of the accolades and, oh my God, what a great interview and, blah, blah, blah. And so I think there's a separation, though. I think he's a good coach. I will never say that Mike Tomlin's a great coach. I just believe he's a good coach, but I think he's a great man. And I think
he's
that's
a great leader.
He's
an excellent leader of men.
Yep,
yeah,
I think that came across in that podcast today. And I think some people just were so fired up over how good it was, like, oh, he's the greatest ever. He's just, and so people run with that. And,
but you know that fans are prone to hyperbole.
Oh,
Mark.
No. Twitter.com has never seen hyperbole.
One week the guy is the greatest coach ever, and the next week he is the worst coach ever, and they should fire him. And what the fuck? Why is he still here?
Yeah,
and it's a constant thing where it's up and down and back. No middle ground, no gray area, nothing like that. That doesn't exist. And listen, because I fucked this up and I want to give the guy credit. The guy that found that point that Ian was talking about when Minkah said, oh yeah, I saw that on tape. And it was 2 months before that was Brett Coleman. He's got a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Highly recommend it. The guy breaks down shit that you will not believe. And you're just like, how the hell did you find this?
Good for him.
It's amazing. The guy, knows his shit.
Okay. I think that's about it, guys. I did want to give a big shout out to Tony Siragusa, who, of course, was a hated Raven, but a larger-than-life type guy, and he passed away at the way too early age of 55 years old today. Part of the great rivalry, and you played at Pitt. Too, which brings it home a little bit there too. But birthdays today: Mike Wagner, 73, and Eric Green, believe it or not, also 55 years old. Eric Green, the tight end, unfreaking believable. So for these guys and myself, that's it. Make sure you visit SteelCityBlitz.com, on Twitter at SC Blitz, and of course on Facebook, Instagram, and all that other stuff. Anyway. We're getting out of here. This has been the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And hey, go Steelers.
And hey, on a closing note, you know, I know we come across as unfeeling assholes because basically we are, but we like all of you. And look out, take care of your health. Take care of your health. It is the most precious thing you possess. And also, the fucking Ravens suck.